Girls, people of all ages, welcome to Debate Crypto in a world where hopium collides with common sense. It's your boy, CryptoKeeper, and as always, BlockchainCrusader. Miguel, how you doing, brother?
What's up, man? I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, man. Good. Can't complain. Did a little apple picking with the family today, so
Nice, bro. Family
exciting
time is
day.
important. Family time
Yeah,
is
no, for
important.
sure. I think sometimes we're working so much that sometimes we can neglect that. So I
Yeah.
definitely need to make that more of a priority. So yeah, so had a good day, man. And yeah, what's on the podium for tonight?
The Bitcoin ETF, bro. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody wants to know, is
Yeah,
Bitcoin going to the moon? What's happening? What's
yeah,
the ETF? And some people don't even know what an ETF is. So we're going to get
right.
into all the details of an ETF, what it means for Bitcoin. Are we going to the moon? Is it going to, not take us to the moon? Is it going to dump on us? We're going to cover
Yeah,
that today.
yeah. We definitely need to be talking about that. So get out the dice because we're ready to roll. Let's get it. So, yeah, Miguel. So, first of all, what was the news that popped off that basically people started to talk about an ETF? First of all, tell me the news, and then I'll
Yeah.
explain it a little further.
So basically, right, we know that these ETF applications have been put in ahead of time. There's a deadline for the first ETF on Monday. And the SEC pretty much tweeted out and they posted saying, "Hey, like we're just not going to interfere. We're not gonna get involved with ETF." And then they also tweeted something along the lines, warning investors that, hey, Bitcoin speculation and ETF is very speculative. Be very careful where you're investing. Kind of giving a warning, kind of heads up, like if this thing is available, be careful with it.
Yeah.
And since then, all the speculation has popped off, and Bitcoin's been moving and been jumping into the 60,000 range.
Yeah, so let me give a little explanation on what an ETF is for those of you we're all about education, so let me educate a little bit here. So an ETF and it stands for Exchange Traded Fund. And what an ETF is, to make it really simple, it is if you want exposure to an asset without actually holding it, you invest in an ETF. With traditional stock market, an ETF is basically a big bag of stocks that are all related to the same thing. So it lessens the amount of volatility generally as a rule that you have, at least in the regular stock market. With this, what everyone's been looking for in the crypto space for years and have been talking about it for years is a physically backed ETF, meaning you can buy shares of this, right? And it would be backed physically by Bitcoin. Like Grayscale has one in. There's a whole bunch of different heavy hitters that have applications in for this. Now, what actually is going to be approved is something a lot different. It is a futures Bitcoin ETF. So, futures is betting on the price of Bitcoin going up or down. That's as simple as I can make it at a certain time in the future, right? I.e., futures, right? And so, but that is not physically backed by Bitcoin. So let me just touch on this first. It is progress, right? And so we did see some movement. The thing that I do believe is that it is only that, though, is progress, because at the end of the day, the futures market is drastically different than a physically backed ETF. The physically backed ETF says, hey, my aunt, my uncle, my grandma, my grandpa, everybody that's in the traditional market now calls up their financial advisor and says, hey, I want exposure to that thing called Bitcoin. Or the other way around, financial advisor says, hey, guess what? We're offering exposure to Bitcoin now, right? That's not what's happening here. What's happening here is it's letting some of the already big players that are already in the market get into some options trading as it relates to Bitcoin in the form of an ETF. So it's progress. It's definitely not perfection. So I mean, what are your initial thoughts on it, Miguel? Hey, Miguel.
Always, bro.
Fail.
Always.
Once every show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna start, you know what? I'm gonna start announcing Miguel as, and thank you for. We're gonna call you Mute Miguel. That's what we're gonna call you, Mute Miguel.
So yeah, what I was gonna say was is the problem with this ETF. it's that it's going to have an effect that people don't expect. People are thinking ETF gets approved, Bitcoin skyrockets. And yeah, we're seeing some speculation now. It's creating some hype, some FOMO, which is something that we needed as a catalyst event for Bitcoin. But at the same time, we've seen it before in 2017 when the CME futures contracts were available. We saw massive selling pressure. We saw massive, right? So this could cause a way of putting brakes on Bitcoin by adding derivatives selling pressure against Bitcoin. At the same time, the ETF is technically not approved.
Right.
The SEC has until midnight of Monday to say, wait a minute, we don't think this is going to happen, and make it not happen. So right now, Bitcoin is pumping and moving because of everybody's getting hyped up about it. And yeah, it's a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of event for me. Not saying that it will instantly cause Bitcoin to dump when it goes live, but that's what we saw in 2017. I know this is a lot earlier in the bull run, so we're not expecting that right now. And according to TA from CVO and everybody else, that shouldn't be happening anytime now. It's kind of just another way that we discussed with CVO of market psychological manipulation with people thinking, wait a minute, that's what we saw in 2017. And what if we see a dump now? Or, what if this is going to lead us to the moon, but then we have a 30% retracement? We never know. So let me bring this up.
I've got it pulled up right now. So here's the article, or one of the articles. There's a bunch of them, but can you see my screen?
Yeah, your screen's up. Your screen's up.
Okay, cool. Bitcoin ETFs may finally make their debut to the trading public next week. Cryptocurrency enthusiasts and exchange-traded fund industry are bracing for the first Bitcoin futures ETF to begin trading Tuesday, when the ProShares Bitcoin Strategy ETF is scheduled to debut at the New York Stock Exchange. There is, however, one catch. The ETF goes active unless the SEC objects to the filing, which can happen right up until midnight on Monday. Despite the uncertainty, many believe the odds are in favor the ETF will begin trading as scheduled. I would give it a 75% chance of approval, ETF Trends Director of Research Dave Nadig said. Now listen, this is kind of what I was saying. This next paragraph here, is it a Bitcoin futures ETF a disappointment or a step in the right direction? The ETF is based on Bitcoin futures that trade on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Miguel was talking about the CME. That's what he was talking about, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, CME. It's a disappointment to many in the Bitcoin community who would prefer a pure play ETF backed by physical Bitcoin, which was what I was talking about. That's what we were really looking for. They complain, i.e. myself, Miguel, and others, that the high cost of rolling into futures contracts will not adequately track the spot price of the cryptocurrency, and that the SEC should proceed to approval of a pure play Bitcoin ETF. So check this out. I like this. This is a quote from the Grayscale CEO, Michael Sonnenschein. A futures is a derivative of the spot market. So if you are comfortable with futures, why wouldn't you be comfortable with the spot market? It then goes on. I'm not going to read you the whole article, but Gary Gensler is the one that's kind of leading the charge. He tries to act like he's impartial a lot. Gensler wants to be innovative yet balanced. He doesn't want to kill financial innovation around crypto. He wants to crack down on the fraud and nefarious elements and criminal activity. He wants to put regulatory framework about it. Listen, here's really what I'm looking at. I think one thing. I think that they are nervous that they don't have full grasp and control over what is going on here, and they want to. When you go a little bit further into the article, I'm not going to pull it back up right now, but when you go a little bit further into the article, actually I can pull it back up because I want to actually read how it was said. Right here, it says, can futures market be manipulated? And this is a lot of what people will talk about, manipulation, and you'll hear us talk about it as well. It says, one big reason a Bitcoin ETF has not been approved is the worry over market manipulation. A similar concern has been expressed about a Bitcoin futures ETF, that the futures market could be manipulated by the spot market. right? So they're basically saying that they could go into the spot market and manipulate the futures, right? Um, they said, we have showed that the CME Bitcoin futures market is the leading source of price discovery in the Bitcoin market worldwide. Prices move first on the CME ahead of Coinbase, Kraken, and other offshore exchanges. The CME is the big dog. The spot market does not wag the futures tail. And I think that's really interesting, Miguel. And I don't know that portion of this well enough to be able to
Yeah.
say to be
So
able to
what?
say, hey, I know which one leads the charge here. That's what
Yeah.
they're
So the
saying.
problem, the,
But
the problem, what they're saying there is, give me a second here. The problem that they're saying there is that basically you can go right. You're betting on futures, right? You're leverage trading on these futures and all this stuff, and on the ETF. And then when you go into spot, whales can go into spot and either dump the price. If there's a lot of people going long, or put going long on the ETF or whatever, they can definitely put a big dump into the market by whales and then dump the market. People get liquidated, and vice versa too, right? If people are
yeah,
shorting on Bitcoin, you can go on spot and then buy up a bunch of Bitcoin, and boom, it takes it the other way, right? So if that is a thing that they're concerned about, why not just put spot on? Right? That's what the grayscale guy was saying.
right.
And the reason why I believe they don't want to put spot on is because they do not want more volume increasing on Bitcoin spot exchanges, right? People are going to be seeing these metrics, seeing the flow of capital going into Bitcoin away from regular markets.
Yeah,
And they're going to be like, oh, wait, we're validating Bitcoin. We're legitimizing Bitcoin even more.
yeah.
And they do not want those metrics to be seen. So that's why I believe they don't want Bitcoin to be traded on spot with a physically backed ETF, because that's just
Yeah,
going to cause more Bitcoin supply to be bought up, and they don't want that.
that's not what they're looking for. You know what? I actually didn't think of it from that perspective, Miguel, and that's a really great point. One of the things about Bitcoin that they are worried about is the fact that it is going to take money away from the traditional markets. Okay,
Yep.
and so that's exactly what you were just talking about. Let me take it a little bit further. The some of these numbers, and this is part of my argument as it relates to the crazy prices that are thrown out there for Bitcoin. I personally think 250, 300K, whatever, for this cycle, I think it's a crazy number. I just don't see it. I hope that it happens. I hope this is one time where I really want to be wrong, right? But I don't see it, and I don't see it for the reason that I believe the number is so high that it absolutely tanks the not actually tanks the stock market. But what I'm saying is it takes so much money, so much capital out of the stock market, because guess what, the risk reward there, absolutely, it doesn't weigh out, right? It's like, hey, yeah, I've got a lot of risk over here, but the reward is insane. It's like leverage trading, right? If you are doing high volume of leverage trades, if you or if you're investing in, like, super low cap alts, you don't care if you're wrong 7 out of 10 times, as long as the 3 times that you're right, you're leveraged heavy, right? And I think it's the same type of idea. It's like, hey, yeah, I might have a lot of volatility to the downside, but when it does move to the upside, which it will again, it's huge. And so I think that's part of the reason why I say, hey, if we get up to those insane numbers, they would look at it and say, wait a minute, it went from $3,000 in March of 2020 to, let's just even say it pushed into next year, to basically then over 2 years, right? It went from $3,000 all the way up to $300,000. Are we serious right now? It 100x. And that's where I see the problem with the massive numbers. A 30x going to 90K, 100K, whatever, is already big enough. It's already a piece of the pie that they have to, some humble pie that needs to be eaten by the by the legacy financial system. But man, when it gets crazy like that, I think it really does start to pull away from the stock market in general.
Yeah, I think sometimes I'm not too worried about pulling money away from the stock market, because there is people out there, right, with so much money already initially that it doesn't need to take away from their positions in the stock market. They could just be allocating some extra cash that they have into Bitcoin, right? 2, 3%, 4%, which is a lot of money, right? Like kind of like Kevin O'Leary, these type of big time, millionaires and billionaires, they have extra cash to put in. They don't have like, okay, this is my entire portfolio and I'm
Right.
not going to put any more money into it. I'm just going to take away from my stocks and go into Bitcoin and Ethereum because I'm limited. No, they'll be like, okay, I'm interested in this thing. I'll put 2 or 3% more over here and increase my portfolio by buying up some more Bitcoin and
Yeah.
Ethereum and so on. So sometimes I'm not too worried about that. But yes, I do agree that the higher we see price increasing for Bitcoin, the more attention Bitcoin's going to get, the more attention crypto's going to get, right?
Yeah.
Because what do we see? What do we see with Shiba? What do we see with Doge? When Doge and Shiba explode in price action and have a gigantic rally, instantly a huge tsunami of people want Doge, want
Yep.
Shiba. New
Yep.
investors, right,
FOMO.
that are not even
FOMO.
in, yeah, that are not even in the crypto markets at all. They're like, dude,
Yep.
I heard on the radio that thing went up 300% yesterday, and then I heard my other buddy made 300% on his money, and he's making all this money, yada yada yada. I want some Shiba. I want some Doge. So you have to that goes into the poor people mindset, right?
Yeah.
Let's say it like
Absolutely.
that. The poor people wanting to get rich overnight
Yep.
on Shiba and Doge. Now we have to think the consideration of rich people that
Rich
see,
people getting richer.
yeah, rich people that see Bitcoin go from 3,000 to 300,000. They're like, wait a minute, there's an asset that I can do that with my money,
Yeah.
right? And Bitcoin can be at 100,000, 50,000, 60,000. They're like, that's pennies to me. I can buy a boatload of those. And they say, wait a minute, that's Shiba and Bitcoin is the Shiba and the Doge for rich people. It's going to increase at an exponential rate for them, and they get FOMO'd into Bitcoin and into Bitcoin for that reason, because they want to grow their wealth even faster with a low risk asset like Bitcoin. But to them, Bitcoin is a high risk asset since
Right.
they're more into the legacy system. They
Right.
see the risk of Bitcoin the way we see the risk of Shiba and Doge.
Yeah.
So that's why they're willing to gamble on it.
I could definitely see that, and it's a good comparison, Miguel. At the at the end of the day, like, yeah, we always talk about how the meme coins and the pump coins and whatever are garbage, right? We don't like them because of the fact that they confuse people. They get people into the market that don't know anything about the market, and the first thing they're asking about is literally an asset that has no utility, no true value other than the value that if a bunch of people talk about it, the price goes up, right? And so so what happens is people get confused. They think that this is a hold, where it ultimately is a short-term gamble if you're going to play it, and it confuses people. And I like the comparison there. And I think the only difference is these wealthy individuals are not confused about what's happening. They're saying, wait a minute, this is substantially more speculative and more risky than my bond yields, for example. However, the upside is so huge that I'll throw something at it. And when they throw something at it, when the wealthy throw something at it, it can get big. And so that actually leads into this. The end of this article here, it says, baby steps first. The SEC is unlikely to take that next step and approve a pure play Bitcoin ETF, at least not yet. They will likely want more regulatory control over the spot market and will want to further prove that the regulated market, i.e., the futures, is doing a good job and not being manipulated by the spot market for Bitcoin. Should the ProShares ETF begin trading Tuesday, others will likely quickly begin trading, including the Invesco Bitcoin Strategy ETF, the Van Eck Bitcoin Strategy ETF, the Valkyrie. There's a whole bunch of them. Hugin said that Tuesday will be a big day for crypto investors. This is a positive step. People will cheer for it. You don't see regulatory courage like this too often. Let me say something here. This is eerily like 2017, 2018, right? I think it was the start of 2018, I think is when it was. The CMEs the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the futures market opens up for Bitcoin, and what happens? Absolute dump, right?
Yeah. The
And it
day
wasn't
it
just a
opened,
dump.
bro, in
It
December, it dumped.
what's that?
The day it opened in December, it
Was it
dumped.
December?
Yeah, December
Okay.
2017 for
Okay.
Bitcoin. Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember if it was December or January of the 18. Okay. So yeah, so it absolutely dumped at that point, right? And so for me, the hard part here is this. I believe we're going to 100, right? And when we talked to CVO the other day, Paul, he's had me thinking about this one thing. What we asked him was we said basically, if it's manipulated, we know it's manipulated, but you can trust and believe in the charts and other other evidence that you have, then why will they not use it against you? And he reminded me quickly, they do use it against you. They use it for the standpoint that the big moves quickly in directions that you're not expecting it can signal something that it's not. And why this gives me a little bit of a feeling is because I am actively holding right now. And I just throwing this out there. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I could see Tuesday being a massive dump, and everybody starts talking bear market, bear market, bear market. We told you 65 was the top. That was it, right? It has a big dump. A bunch of people that don't know any better will get out, and then it will pump again. My problem is that would be so much like 2017 when it actually was going into a bear market that I'm not going to lie. I've been in this for years. It would scare me. It would scare me. Like
Yeah.
I have no
And that's how
problem
it's
admitting it.
designed to be. It's designed
Yeah.
to be scary, right?
Yeah.
It's designed to scare you that way. But I also think that the approval, if the approval does go through on Monday, like I said, right, it'll be an escalating thing where now we'll get approvals on Tuesday and then get approvals later in the month on the 25th. And then there's a bunch of more set up for November. And I
Right.
think that could be enough to create this hype, to create this FOMO, right? This compounding effect that Bitcoin needs of good news to make it really start going parabolic. Just how we've seen it time and time again. At the beginning of the year, we had compounding bullish news of companies putting Bitcoin on their balance sheets, and Elon, MicroStrategy, so forth, institutions coming in, and that made Bitcoin go up really quickly. I think this could be the same exact thing leading all the way into December to
Yeah.
create these parabolic movements. If we start seeing all of these ETFs get approved and eventually leading to a physically backed ETF later this year, it's going to really, really start skyrocketing things. And like we said, right, the TA, like CVO is showing, doesn't lie, right? The TA does the same thing over and over. They just manipulate us through fear in different ways. So I think that this is one of those tactics that could be putting us at unease, right? With, is it going to dump after it launches? Because that's what
Right.
we saw in 2017, and it
Yep.
might even actually have a retracement, right? Like you said, buy the rumor, sell the news, and then oh crap, 65 top, 65 was a double top. It's
Yep.
over, right? And instead it goes right back up, right? And it jumps right back up, and then it's like, oh, gotcha, right? We gotcha
Yeah.
again.
You
And they
know,
just need the ETFs to be an excuse to make Bitcoin parabolic.
yeah, I totally agree. The markets are manipulated no matter whether we're talking spot markets or we're talking futures markets, whatever the case may be. We've got Evan Westmore in the chat. I just want to touch on this. He is big in the legacy financial system. I believe he is a financial advisor of some sort, and he says he was just talking about that if Bitcoin crashes substantially, that ETF could take a big loss depending on how leveraged they are in those future calls, right? And so
Yes.
ultimately, we're going to bring Evan on at some point and talk to him about how the stock market coincides with Bitcoin. Right? We're going to talk about some of that. We're going to talk about a number of different things from the legacy financial system versus crypto, good, bad, indifferent, because it does matter. The legacy financial system and crypto are both tied together, whether we like it or not. And so we want to be able to bring you guys that good info. We want to bring it from people that actually have experience in this, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm excited to bring him on, and we're going to do that real soon. So Miguel, let me ask you, what do you think is going to happen next week?
I think we're going to see the ETF get approved. I think we're going to see it get approved, and I think we could see a minor pullback, like you
Okay.
said, right? We could see a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of thing. A lot of people in the crypto community themselves are not really hyped up about it. Kind of like the ETF that got approved. That's a double indirect exposure to Bitcoin,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We didn't see any price movement from that. So we could see a negative price movement, a small one, right? Nothing like a 30% or anything like that. A very small, nothing burger kind of day, because we won't know until the end of the day for Monday. But who knows, right? I definitely don't know. We could see gigantic speculation and just start FOMOing at the mouth on Monday, and people just, I gotta buy Bitcoin now, and
Right.
Bitcoin just starts to skyrocket. But either way, whether we see Bitcoin skyrocket now on Monday or not, a retracement will happen. If we
Yeah.
see Bitcoin pump first, we're going to see a retracement happen in the next couple of weeks for whatever reason. If
Yeah.
Bitcoin retraces on Monday, then we're going to see a pump eventually. So it's just a matter of time. Either one's going to play out.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I am hoping that because I do believe that we're actually going to have a pullback on Monday. I don't know how large I think it's going to be, but I think we're actually going to have a pullback just because that's how these institutions like to play games. I mean, it's just the facts, right? When everybody's bullish, everybody's going da 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 da. What do they try to do? It's like this. It's like if you're a small kid, right? And you climb up a little apple tree. I was apple picking today, so I'm going to use it for this. You climb up a little apple tree, and it's a small apple tree, and you're 6-8 feet off the ground. You're not going to die from the fall, but it's going to sure make you think twice about climbing again. So what happens is you climb up in the tree, right? You're about 6 or 8 feet up, reaching for an apple, and all of a sudden the institution grabs the base of the tree and starts shaking, right? And you fall out of the tree, right? And you hit the ground and your head hurts, right? You might have a scraped up elbow. You're not dead, right? But you
Yeah.
felt it and you remembered it. And that's what they like to do. They like to shake trees. And the reason they like to do that is because the investor that comes in, or the noob, especially the noob, even seasoned investors do this, but the noob especially, that doesn't truly know what's going on, gets the tree shook, right? Gets shaken, and they genuinely they sell at a loss, right? That's exactly what these institutions want. Then they flip the price back around, run it up, and all of a sudden start just piling on good news, good news, good news. So that same person that got shook out of the tree, they're bandaged up and they're ready to move back forward. And then all of a sudden, guess what they do? They buy the top, right? That is genuinely the whole point of these institutions. They want
Yeah.
to buy the bottom and sell the top, and they want you to buy the tops and sell the bottoms. And so we've got to fight
Exactly.
against that with one thing, and this is what we stand for, guys: education. If you guys are looking for more education, right, we've got debatecrypto.academy. We're doing seminars every single Sunday. We would love to have you guys. We've got a lot of good content over there. So make sure you check us out, debatecrypto.academy. Miguel, do we have any questions in the chat right now? Anybody trying to?
No, I'm not seeing any questions.
Nothing in the chat right now. Okay.
Nope.
All right. Cool. Well, guys, I think that's going to call it for this evening. We hope everybody has a freaking fantastic Saturday night, guys. Make sure you stay safe. If nobody's told you before today, we freaking love you. We hope that
Yep.
you guys have a great night. And until next time, hodl
Huddle
like it's
like
hot.
it's hot.
We'll see you